Hey everyone, this is Barbara Teckle. Today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about where does this feeling of not enough, feeling not good enough come from? And this is something that, talking with many women over the years, I see this time and time again. And this has been my personal experience of my own experience in my own life of really working with where did this feeling of not enough come from, that I wanted to talk about this today. And this has been a big realization for me and a new awareness that I was able to go deeper into where this not enough came from the last year or so. And I have to give credit and thank, as many of you know, I've learned so much from animals in my life. And I have to thank my dear little dachshund named Gidget, who was, being a reflection for me about a year ago this time, where I found myself in a very deep and dark place of not being able to cope. So I am going to pull I already did pull the oracle cards around this question, but before that, I do that. I really want to talk about, where does this feeling of not enough come from for you? And I want to invite you to, instead of being afraid of what that might reveal, to be open to receiving this as a gift. That if you could discover of where this originated from, that it could be a gift to help shift your perspective in your life. So I am going to want to, I'm going to invite you to, really sit with this and start to think about where does this feeling of not enough come from? So first of all, I turn to the Wisdom of the Oracle deck and I ask the question, how do we begin? How do we begin to be with believing that we are enough? And the card I pulled is Yin. And I actually pulled it in reverse. So Yin is all about the feminine principle of receptivity. And it's also about the art of conscious allowing. And I find this really interesting that this is the card that I pulled for the question, in that the message in reverse is inviting us to look at where we have trouble receiving. So perhaps you're wondering, well, what does that have to do with feeling not enough? So I can definitely raise my hand and say, I understand this message clearly, in that when we feel not enough, and I have done this in my own life, that we try to fill the needs of others. We try to be there for everybody else in our life because we're just masking that pain that we have deep inside of this feeling that we're not enough, right? So we do everything else for everybody else. So we have to avoid looking at, where this pain is coming from. And again, I can certainly say this has been the case for me. And it's something I've become much more aware of, and why I want to share this with you today. So when we put our attention on, other projects or other people, perhaps, in a roundabout way without consciously realizing it, it's a way in which we feel like we're getting our needs met. And we really believe that we're doing, the best for another. And I know our intentions are good. My intentions have always been, for the most part, good, that I'm aware of. So when we begin to feel like we aren't enough, Yin, again, Yin, is asking us to allow ourselves to first be with our feelings and to not rush to do something for somebody else or to start something else in order to make ourselves feel good. Again, even though we really have the best intention in doing that. So Yin is asking us to first be open to receive love first and foremost for ourselves, so that when we do reach out to others to offer help, we're doing it from a place of truth and not a place of trying to get our own needs met through this feeling of not feeling enough, wherever that originated from. So from my experience, as I started out sharing in this video, it was almost a year ago when I found myself in this very dark place of not being able to cope. And I couldn't cope with issues that were happening with my dog, Gidget, who suffers from some chronic health issues. And that's something I'm currently writing a book about, what I learned from her through this whole process. And I was in this place of just, excruciating angst and resentment and anger. And I didn't even recognize myself. And so what in actuality was happening was I was doing this inner battle with myself, with the part of me that didn't feel good enough. But there was this part of me that deep down inside, I knew I was good enough. But there was this battle that part that didn't feel good enough was trying to win in the worst way. So what I had to do was I really had to be with that. And I really had to look at, once and for all, where was that feeling of not feeling good enough? Where was that coming from? So yin is all about tapping into that feminine part of ourselves and to truly allowing this space within us to be with that feeling of where this not enough comes from, instead of what tends to be the masculine and what our culture, conditioned into us, of just pushing it aside or forging and, forcing ourselves ahead and just ignoring that pain that continues to nudge at us in all these different ways. So I see again yin. I'm going to hold that up again. I see this card, with its soft pinks and purples, really is inviting us to lovingly and gently, fall into that space. Fall into that space within where you feel safe, whatever that looks like for you. And, when you're there, to softly and compassionately perhaps talk to that little girl inside of you that may have been wounded, or that young girl that, someone said something to you that hurt you so deeply that it stuck with you as truth. And in reality, it isn't truth. And this pain just wants to be acknowledged, and it just wants to be heard, and it just wants to know that everything's going to be okay. And when you're able to do this and find that space and that place of where that feeling not enough came from, you're able to finally feel or begin to feel this freedom that you may have never felt before. So I also wanted to, because animals have been such a support and taught me some pretty profound lessons in my life, I also wanted to pull a card, and I already did that, from the Spirit Animal Oracle. And the card is Owl Spirit. And the message on the card says, you see clearly now. And the wise owl really is reminding us that our truth and our wisdom is truly already within us. It's already within you. It's there. It's just waiting there for you to see it and feel it and acknowledge it. And I love what the guidebook says about, there's a part in the guidebook that says, even in the darkest night, the owl sees clearly and is guided by every sense it has, including the first sense of intuition. So owl is inviting us to strengthen that intuition muscle, because so many of us have, let that go, just because of cultural beliefs and maybe perhaps the way we were brought up. We're not taught to tap into our intuition, but it's our intuition that is always serving us for our highest good. And somewhere deep inside, you already know that you are good enough and that you are enough. It's just been buried, perhaps by a wound or, something that has happened to you in your past. And of course, it's natural that you want to protect yourself from being hurt again. But Owl asks us to use, they use all their senses to gather information and cues, just like Yin is offering us a message with the same support, that when we begin to sense our way through all the feelings of where this not enough originated from, and to just be with all those feelings and allow them to come up and meet them face to face. And when you recognize where that not enough came from, don't judge it. Just hold it gently and love it and ponder it for what it taught you and how it helped you to make you who you now are, and how it can guide you to become even more of who you wish to be, and in reality, who you already are. And yeah, you're probably going to have to repeat this again and again and again until those times of questioning and thinking that you are not enough becomes less and less. And for those times when those feelings do rise again that you aren't enough, and they will, they will, they still do for me as well, but they're less and less. Just pay attention as you realize with quicker awareness that, yes, you again. And just thank it and let it know it's okay. You got this. You know better. And just most importantly, just remember it isn't you. It's not who you really are. So I hope this message about this feeling of not enough, which again, I know so many of my friends have experienced or are experiencing, and so many women I talk to experience this. And I hope this message is of help for you, and that yin, you will bring some more yin into your life. Goodness knows we need more feminine in this world today, don't we? We absolutely do. And we all need to tap into that very, very wise part of ourselves. So thanks so much for listening, and I will be back again with another message when I feel called to share something with you. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will talk to you again soon. Take good care. Bye-bye.